Hello, I hope you're doing well. Today we are going to discuss the book Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World by Cal Newport. The provided text does not contain detailed bibliographic information such as the publisher, place, or year of publication. This is an independent summary, and under no circumstances does it replace reading the original work. 1. The big idea. Your brain isn't a damn browser with 1,000 tabs open. Let's get one thing straight. The most important skill in the 21st century isn't coding, it isn't marketing, and it sure as hell isn't being a social media ninja. The most valuable and rarest skill is the ability to focus, to do deep work. This is the simple, brutal truth at the heart of this book. We're living in a world that's actively hostile to concentration, a world that celebrates the shallow and the distracted, and it's turning most people into economically worthless, twitchy messes. The few who intentionally cultivate the ability to go deep, to shut out the world and produce things of value, are the ones who are going to own the future. The rest will be fighting for scraps, answering emails for a living, and wondering why they feel so damn busy, but so utterly insignificant. Think about this dude, Carl Jung from a century ago. He wasn't some productivity guru with a podcast. He was a psychiatrist trying to wrestle with the biggest ideas about the human mind, and he was getting his ass kicked by his mentor, Sigmund Freud. To level up, he didn't go to a networking event. He went to the woods and built a stone tower by hand. No electricity, no running water, no distractions. He'd lock himself in there for hours just to think. This wasn't a vacation home. It was a fortress for his attention. He knew that to create work that would change the world, he couldn't do it in between appointments and administrative bullshit. He had to go deep. He was deliberately choosing the discomfort of intense focus over the easy distraction of his daily life in Zurich. And it paid off. He became one of the most influential thinkers in history. Now look at your own life. When you need to do something important, where do you go? To another open tab? To your email inbox? You don't have a tower? You have a Twitter feed. You've chosen your battleground, and it's a shallow one. The fundamental choice is this. You can be a human router, constantly processing and reacting to the flood of incoming messages, feeling busy but producing nothing of consequence. Or you can be a creator, someone who stands apart from the noise and produces work that is difficult to replicate and highly valuable. One path leads to a life of frantic, low-value servitude to other people's agendas. The other leads to a life of impact and fulfillment. It's a hard choice because going deep is uncomfortable. It requires you to struggle with a single problem for an extended period. It feels less productive in the moment than clearing 100 emails. But in the long run, it's the only thing that actually moves the needle. You have to choose your struggle, the short-term pain of deep focus or the long-term pain of regret and mediocrity. 1.1. Deep work versus shallow work, the masterpiece and the meme. So what exactly is this deep work stuff? Let's break it down so there's no confusion, because you're probably telling yourself that the crap you do all day is deeper than it really is. Deep work is any professional activity performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that pushes your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These are the efforts that create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. This is the scientist wrestling with a new theory, the writer crafting a chapter, the programmer architecting a complex system. It's hard. It's draining. It requires you to be alone with your thoughts, which for most people these days is terrifying. This is the work that makes you better. The mental strain involved is like lifting weights for your brain. It's what builds new muscle. It's the only way to produce work of the highest quality and to master hard things quickly. Shallow work, on the other hand, is made up of non-cognitively demanding logistical-style tasks, often performed while distracted. These efforts tend not to create much new value in the world and are easy to replicate. This is 90% of what happens in a modern office. Answering emails, attending pointless status meetings, posting updates on Slack, scrolling through your LinkedIn feed to see who got a promotion you didn't. It's busy work. It makes you feel like you're doing something, like you're a vital cog in the machine, but you're not. You're just a human switchboard, and your job is ripe for automation. A trained monkey could do it, and pretty soon, an algorithm will. This type of work doesn't make you better. In fact, it makes you worse. Spend enough time in a state of frenetic shallowness, and you permanently reduce your capacity to perform deep work. Your brain starts to look like a cracked out squirrel, unable to focus on any one thing for more than a few seconds. The tragedy of the modern workplace is that it's actively designed to encourage shallow work. Open plan offices, instant messaging, the expectation of immediate email responses. It's a conspiracy against depth. The culture is built on the lie that being connected and responsive is the same as being effective. It's not. It's the opposite. Every time you get pulled out of a deep task to answer a quick question, you don't just lose the minute it takes to respond. You shatter your concentration, and it can take 20 minutes or more to get back to the same level of focus. This attention residue means that even when you return to your important task, a part of your brain is still stuck on the interruption. You're operating with a fractured mind, and your output will be fractured too. 1.2. The modern lie. Busyness as a proxy for importance. Why are we so obsessed with the shallow ramens? If deep work is so valuable, why are companies and individuals running in the opposite direction? It boils down to a simple, pathetic reason. It's easier. In the absence of clear metrics for what it means to be productive in knowledge work, many people just default to an industrial-era indicator of productivity: visible activity. Busyness becomes a proxy for productivity. If you're constantly sending emails, if your calendar is packed with meetings, if you're always available on chat, you look productive. You feel productive. But it's a charade. You're just generating a lot of noise to hide the fact that you're not producing much of value. Think of the real players, the people at the top of their fields. The screenwriter Woody Allen wrote and directed 44 films in 44 years. He never owned a computer. He did all his writing on a manual typewriter, completely disconnected from the digital noise. The author Neil Stephenson, who basically wrote the blueprint for our online world in his novels, is famously impossible to reach electronically. His website has no email address. He figured out early on that a life of constant interruption would produce a lot of emails, but no novels. These people aren't Luddites. They are ruthless pragmatists. They understand that their attention is the raw material for their success, and they protect it fiercely. They've made a simple calculation. The value of producing one great work of art, one groundbreaking book, or one brilliant piece of code far outweighs the perceived benefit of being constantly available. The modern knowledge worker has been sold a bill of goods. They've been told that being part of the hive mind, being always on and always connected, is crucial. But this culture of connectivity primarily benefits the organization's desire for logistical convenience, not the individual's ability to produce value. It makes life easier in the short term, for sure. You don't have to plan your day as carefully if you can just ask a question and get an instant answer. But this convenience comes at a massive cost: the erosion of your ability to think, to create, and to solve hard problems. You are trading your long-term potential for short-term ease. And that is a terrible, terrible trade. The question you have to ask yourself is this: is your goal to be a responsive cog in a machine, or is it to be an indispensable creator of value later? Because you can't be both. Number 2, why your job is probably going to suck unless you can go deep. The economy is not your friend. It's a cold, heartless machine that rewards one thing and one thing only: rare and valuable output. It doesn't care how many hours you work, how busy you look, or how passionate you are about your personal brand. It's a brutal marketplace, and technology is turning up the heat. We're in the middle of what some economists call a great restructuring, which is a fancy way of saying the middle is being ripped out of the workforce. You're either going to be at the top, reaping massive rewards, or you're going to be at the bottom, fighting for scraps and getting replaced by an app. Average is over. Dead. Buried. The comfortable, stable career your parents had is a historical artifact, like a floppy disk or a politician who tells the truth. I remember when I first tried to learn to code. I figured, hey, I'm a smart guy, I can pick this up. I bought a couple of books, signed up for some online courses, and proceeded to spend the next 6 months accomplishing absolutely nothing. Why? Because I did what everyone does. I'd learn for 15 minutes, then check my email. Then I'd watch a tutorial video while scrolling through social media. I was treating this incredibly difficult skill like it was another piece of content to be consumed. My brain was a mess of attention residue, a jumbled up pile of half-formed thoughts. I was failing, not because the material was too hard, but because I had completely forgotten how to actually learn. My failure wasn't in my intelligence, it was in my methodology. I had trained my brain to be a professional distraction seeker, and it was a skill that was proving to be utterly worthless. This restructuring is creating three groups of winners. Pay attention, because your only hope is to claw your way into one of the first two. First, you have the high-skilled workers. These are the people who can work with and get value out of increasingly complex, intelligent machines. Think of someone like Nate Silver, the data nerd who basically called the 2012 election with his weirdly accurate statistical models. He's not afraid of the machine. He's the machine's master. He can feed it data, ask it smart questions, and interpret the results in a way that creates massive value. As technology gets more powerful, these people become more valuable, not less. They're the algorithm whisperers. Second, you have the superstars. In the old days, your competition was local. If you were the best accountant in your town, you had a solid career. Not anymore. Thanks to the internet, the market for talent is now global. A company in Des Moines doesn't need to hire the best programmer in Des Moines. They can hire one of the best programmers in the world, like David Heinemeier Hansson, the guy who created Ruby on Rails. They can pay him for exactly the time they need and get a world-class result. This means if you're not at the very top of your field, you're competing with everyone who is. It's a winner-take-all market. Good enough is no longer good enough. The third group is the owners. These are the people with the capital to invest in all this new technology. The venture capitalists like John Doerr. They're making a killing because when you can create a billion-dollar company with 13 employees, like Instagram, most of the money flows back to the owners, not the labor. But let's be honest, that's probably not you. So let's forget them. Your path is to become a machine whisperer or a superstar. 2.1, the two abilities that matter. So, how do you become one of these winners? How do you avoid getting chewed up and spit out by the new economy? It all comes down to developing two core abilities. If you can cultivate these, you'll thrive. If you can't, you're toast. The first ability is to quickly master hard things. The world is changing at a breakneck pace. The programming language that's hot today will be obsolete in 10 years. The marketing strategy that works now will be a joke in 5. To stay relevant, you must be able to pick up complex new skills in a ridiculously short amount of time. You have to be a learning machine. This isn't about taking a weekend workshop. It's about systematically and intensely acquiring a skill that is cognitively demanding, like learning a new coding framework, understanding a complex legal structure, or mastering a new data analysis technique. The second ability is to produce at an elite level in terms of both quality and speed. It's not enough to be good. In a superstar economy, you have to be the best, and you have to be able to deliver. Your output has to be so good that it stands out from the sea of mediocrity. But it's not just about quality, it's also about speed. The world moves too fast for you to spend 3 years polishing a single project. You need to be able to produce high-quality work consistently and efficiently. This is about creating tangible, valuable things, whether it's a well-written report, a flawless piece of code, or a game-changing business strategy. These two abilities are not separate. They are deeply intertwined, and they both depend on the exact same underlying skill, the ability to perform deep work. 2.2, Deep Work, the engine of value creation. Let's talk about why deep work is the secret sauce for both learning hard things and producing elite-level work. When you're trying to learn something difficult, you are literally rewiring your brain. The science is pretty clear on this. To build new skills, you need to fire the relevant neurons in your brain again and again in a state of intense focus. This process strengthens the myelin sheath around those neurons, which is like adding insulation to an electrical wire. More myelin means the neural circuit works faster and more effectively. This process does not happen when you're distracted. When you try to learn in a state of low concentration, checking your phone every few minutes, half listening to a podcast, you're firing too many circuits in a weak and haphazard way. You're not building myelin. You're just creating a bunch of mental noise. To learn, you must focus. The more intense the focus, the faster you learn. The same principle applies to producing at an elite level. There's a simple equation that governs the value of your output. High-quality work produced, time spent x intensity of focus. Most people, when they want to get more done, just try to increase the time spent variable. They work longer hours. They stay late. They answer emails at 11 p.m. This is the dumbest possible approach. It leads to burnout and diminishing returns. The real leverage, the variable that the pros manipulate, is intensity of focus. By cranking up your intensity to the maximum, you can produce more value in a shorter amount of time. A 4-hour block of completely uninterrupted deep work can produce a better result than a 12-hour day of fractured, shallow effort. I've seen it in my own life. The days I lock myself away for 3 hours without distraction are the days I make real progress on my books. The days I spend working for 8 hours while constantly checking things online are the days I get nothing meaningful done. By maximizing your intensity, you can not only improve the quality of your output, but also reduce the time it takes to produce it. You can work less and accomplish more. So here's the unavoidable conclusion. The path to becoming a winner in this new economy isn't about finding the right hack or the right tool or the right networking strategy. It's about systematically training your ability to focus. It's about ruthlessly eliminating distractions and dedicating significant chunks of your time to deep, concentrated effort. This is the superpower of the 21st century. It's the one thing that can't be easily outsourced or automated. The ability to go deep is what separates the indispensable from the irrelevant. So the choice is yours. You can continue to surf the waves of shallow distraction, feeling busy but achieving nothing. Or you can start the hard work of building your own tower in the woods. Choose your struggle, the discomfort of focus or the pain of being left behind. 3. All right, so how do you actually do this? Okay, so you're sold. You've accepted the brutal truth that your current work habits are turning you into a professionally irrelevant, distractible muppet. You get it. Deep work is the key to not being replaced by a clever piece of software. Fantastic. Now what? You can't just decide to be a deep work ninja. That's like deciding you're going to be a rock star without ever picking up a guitar. Your brain, in its current state, is a weak, flabby muscle, trained for nothing more strenuous than scrolling and clicking. Trying to force it into hours of intense concentration is like trying to make a chihuahua pull a sled. It's not going to happen. You need a plan. You need rules. You need to structure your life around this new priority because your good intentions are worthless against the tidal wave of digital bullshit. A few years back, I made a pact with myself to write for 2 hours every single morning before doing anything else. No email, no news, no phone. The first week was hell. It felt like trying to hold my breath underwater. My brain was screaming for a distraction. It was inventing urgent things I needed to check. I felt a phantom buzz in my pocket every 30 seconds. I'd just sit there, staring at a blank page, my mind racing everywhere except where it needed to be. It was pathetic. I realized my problem wasn't just a lack of willpower, it was a lack of structure. I was trying to fight a war on an open field. I needed a fortress. I needed a ritual. So I built one. I designated a specific chair, made the same type of coffee, put on the same instrumental playlist, and set a timer. It became a trigger. This is what we do now. It's not a negotiation. The ritual became the boss, not my whimpering, distraction-addicted brain. The point is this. You can't rely on willpower. Willpower is like a flaky friend who cancels on you half the time. What you need are systems. You need to build deep work into the architecture of your day so that it happens automatically. You need to make it a non-negotiable habit, as ingrained as brushing your teeth. This isn't about finding more time. It's about fundamentally restructuring the time you have. And to do that, you first need to decide on your philosophy of depth. You need to choose your strategy for how you're going to integrate these intense sessions into your life. There's no one-size-fits-all answer, so stop looking for one. You have to pick the strategy that fits your life, your job, and your personality. But you have to pick one. 3.1. Choose your depth philosophy. The monk, the bimodal, the rhythmic, or the journalist. There are basically 4 different ways to schedule deep work into your life. Think of them as different operating systems for your focus. First, there's the monastic philosophy. This is the most extreme, all-in approach. You basically become a productivity hermit. You radically minimize or eliminate all shallow obligations. Think of the novelist Neil Stephenson, who has no email address and avoids most forms of modern communication. Or the classic example of the academic who goes on sabbatical to a remote cabin for a year to write their masterpiece. The monastic approach maximizes deep work. But let's be real, it's not practical for most of us. Most people have bosses, clients, kids, and a life that doesn't allow them to just disappear into the woods. If you try this without having the right career context, you're not a monk. You're just unemployed and hiding from your responsibilities. Second, there's the bimodal philosophy. This is a bit more realistic. With this approach, you divide your time into 2 distinct modes. You have long, clearly defined stretches, at least a full day, maybe a week or more, where you go full monastic. You lock yourself away from the world and do nothing but deep work. Then, for the rest of the time, you're fully engaged in your shallow, connected life. Carl Jung was a bimodal guy. He had his busy practice in Zurich, but he'd regularly retreat to his Bollingen Tower for periods of intense, isolated thought. This approach works well for people who have some autonomy over their schedule, but can't just check out completely. The key is that the deep work periods are substantial. Going to a coffee shop for an afternoon doesn't count. We're talking about dedicating serious multi-day chunks of time to a single deep pursuit. Third, we have the rhythmic philosophy. This is the most practical and effective for the majority of people. The idea here is to make deep work a simple, regular habit. Instead of waiting for a long stretch of free time to open up, which it never will, you create a daily or weekly rhythm. You schedule a recurring block of 90 minutes or a few hours every single day at the same time for deep work. This is the chain method. You build a chain of daily sessions, and your only job is to not break the chain. The power of this approach is that it removes the need for decision-making and willpower. You don't wake up and ask, "Do I feel like doing deep work today?" You just do it. It's 9 a.m., and this is what we do at 9 a.m. By making it a consistent, easy-to-start routine, you bypass your brain's natural resistance to hard stuff. Finally, there's the journalistic philosophy. This is the most advanced and, frankly, the most dangerous for novices. The journalist trains their mind to be able to switch into deep work mode at a moment's notice whenever a pocket of free time appears. Got a 45-minute gap between meetings? Boom, deep work. A client cancels, boom, deep work. It's named after journalists who have to write articles on a tight deadline in chaotic environments. Cal Newport, the author of this book, claims to use this method, but he warns that you shouldn't even attempt it until you've logged many, many hours of deep work using one of the other methods. Your focus muscle has to be incredibly strong. For most people, trying the journalistic approach is just an excuse to fool themselves. They'll open a document for 10 minutes, check their email, and call it deep work. It's a recipe for fragmented, shallow effort disguised as something more profound. Don't be that person. Start with the rhythmic approach. 3.2. Ritualize everything. Build a bunker for your brain. Once you've chosen your philosophy, you need to build a ritual. A ritual is a set of predefined steps you follow every single time you start a deep work session. The goal of the ritual is to take you from a state of distraction to a state of intense focus as quickly and frictionlessly as possible. It's about automating the transition so you don't have to waste mental energy on it. Your ritual should be ridiculously specific. First, decide where you'll work and for how long. Pick a location that you use exclusively for deep work if possible. This creates a powerful psychological association. It could be a specific desk in your office, a certain chair in your house, a library, or a quiet coffee shop. When you go to that spot, your brain knows it's time to focus. Then set a specific time limit for the session. Don't just say, "I'll work for a while." Say, "I will work for 90 minutes without interruption." A clear finish line makes it easier to start. Second, decide how you'll work once you start. What are the rules? No internet, phone in another room, turned off, all necessary tabs and documents open beforehand. This is crucial. You need to eliminate any potential source of distraction before you begin. The slightest bit of friction, like having to look up a file or a password, can be enough to break your concentration and send you tumbling down a rabbit hole of shallowness. Third, figure out how you'll support your work. Do you need coffee or tea? Have it ready before you start. Need a snack? Have it on your desk. Have you gone to the bathroom? Drunk a glass of water? The goal is to create a state where there are zero excuses to get up or break your focus for the entire duration of your session. Think of it like a surgeon preparing for an operation. They don't just walk in and start cutting. Everything is prepared, sterilized, and laid out in advance so that once the operation begins, their focus is absolute. You need to treat your attention with that same level of respect. Look, this all might sound a bit obsessive, but that's the point. We live in a world that is engineered to destroy your focus. You cannot fight this environment with half measures and good intentions. You need to fight back with an equally powerful and deliberate system. You need to declare war on distraction and build a fortress to protect your most valuable asset, your attention. So stop winging it. Stop hoping that you'll magically find the time and focus to do the work that matters. It's not going to happen. You have to make it happen. Choose your philosophy, build your ritual, and then shut up and do the work. 4. The 4 disciplines of deep work. Your battle plan. Let's assume you've done the hard part. You've looked in the mirror and admitted that your brain has the attention span of a goldfish on meth. You've picked your deep work philosophy, probably the rhythmic one, because you're not a monk and you're not a genius journalist. So let's be real. Now what? How? Now you execute. This is where 99% of people fail. They have the grand idea, the noble intention, but they have no goddamn clue how to translate that into daily action. An ambition without a plan is just a daydream. And your daydreams are not going to pay the bills. To make deep work a reality, we need to borrow a ruthlessly effective framework from the corporate world called the 4 disciplines of execution, or 4DX. It sounds boring and corporate, I know. But it works because it's designed for real, flawed, distractible humans, not for productivity robots. It's a system for getting the most important stuff done in the midst of a whirlwind of bullshit. And your life is a whirlwind of bullshit. I once decided I was going to get in the best shape of my life. I had this grand vision of myself with a six-pack and the cardiovascular system of a marathon runner. What did I do? I bought a gym membership, a bunch of supplements I didn't understand, and a new pair of running shoes. Then I tried to do everything at once. I'd go to the gym and lift weights for 2 hours, then try to go for a 5-mile run, then come home and eat nothing but chicken and broccoli. It lasted about a week. I was exhausted, sore, and miserable. I was focused on the glorious outcome, the lag measure, but I had no sustainable plan of action, no lead measures. I was trying to win the war in a single idiotic battle. I failed because my ambition was a fuzzy, feel-good fantasy, not a concrete, executable strategy. The 4DX framework is what turns that fantasy into a plan. The core idea of 4DX is that you can't manage the whirlwind, the endless stream of emails, meetings, and urgent but unimportant tasks that make up your day. It will always be there. Trying to eliminate it is like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. Instead, you must focus on executing a very small number of wildly important goals despite the whirlwind. You carve out a space for what truly matters and defend it with your life. It's not about doing more. It's about executing flawlessly on less. For our purposes, that wildly important goal is deep work. And here are the 4 disciplines you will use to make it happen. 4.1, Discipline 1. Focus on the wildly important. Your first job is to stop being a dilettante. You can't do it all. You can't master 5 new skills, launch 3 side hustles, and write a novel all at the same time. The more you try to do, the less you will actually accomplish. This is a fundamental law of execution. So you must pick 1, maybe 2, if you're feeling cocky, wildly important goals that you will pursue with maniacal focus for a set period, like the next quarter. This goal must be specific, measurable, and have a deadline. Get better at writing is not a goal. It's a wish. Write the complete first draft of my 50,000-word book manuscript by March 31st is a wildly important goal. For this goal, the output is directly tied to a massive amount of deep work hours. You need to identify the high-level goal that will produce the most value if you achieve it. What is the one project that, if completed, would have a transformative impact on your career? Is it shipping that new software feature? Is it publishing a groundbreaking research paper? Is it landing 3 major new clients by creating an insanely good proposal? Whatever it is, you need to define it with brutal clarity. This goal becomes your North Star. It's the thing you will sacrifice other, less important things for. It's the reason you're going to say no to a lot of incoming requests. It's the anchor for your deep work sessions. Without this specific high-stakes goal, your deep work will lack direction. You'll just be focusing for the sake of focusing, which is a pointless exercise. The goal gives your depth a purpose. 4.2. Discipline 2. Act on the lead measures. This is the most important discipline of the 4. Most people are obsessed with lag measures. A lag measure is the result you're trying to achieve. It's the number on the scale, the sales revenue at the end of the quarter, the published book. The problem with lag measures is that you can't directly influence them. You can't just will yourself to lose 10 pounds. By the time you get the measurement, the performance that drove it is already in the past. It's history. Obsessing over lag measures is stressful and useless. What you need to focus on are the lead measures. A lead measure is a high-leverage action that you can control and that has a predictive impact on the lag measure. It's the behavior that leads to the result. You can't control whether your book becomes a bestseller, lag measure, but you can control the number of hours you spend in deep work, writing every week, lead measure. You can't control your final grade in a class, lag measure, but you can control the number of hours you spend in focused, uninterrupted study, lead measure. The key to success is to identify the right lead measure and then track it obsessively. For our purpose of integrating deep work, the single best lead measure is brutally simple: the time spent in a state of deep work. That's it. Your job is not to worry about finishing the project. Your job is to rack up hours of deep work. Your goal is to get to a point where you are consistently hitting a target number of deep work hours every week. The project will take care of itself. The book will get written. The code will get shipped. The skill will be mastered. By focusing on the behavior you can control, time in the chair, hands on the keyboard, phone in another dimension, you sidestep all the anxiety and uncertainty associated with the final outcome. Your only job, every single day, is to hit your number. That's a game you can win. 4.3. Discipline 3. Keep a compelling scoreboard. You are a simple creature. You are motivated by progress. If you can't see that you're making progress, you'll give up. That's why you need a scoreboard. But not some complicated spreadsheet. You need a simple, physical, in-your-face scoreboard that tells you at a glance whether you are winning or losing your lead measure game. The scoreboard is not for your boss. It's for you. It needs to be visible, and it needs to be updated constantly. The best scoreboard for tracking deep work hours is a simple calendar or a notebook. Every time you complete a deep work session, you mark it down. Tally the hours. Put a big, satisfying check mark next to the day. Or even better, just keep a running tally of your total deep work hours for the month or the quarter. For example, if your goal is to write a book, you might find that it requires about 500 hours of deep work. Your scoreboard is just a piece of paper that says 500 at the top, and every time you complete an hour, you cross off a number. 500 becomes 499, becomes 498. It's a countdown to done. The visual nature of this is incredibly powerful. It provides immediate feedback. It creates a sense of momentum. When you see a chain of successful days, you become highly motivated not to break the chain. When you see the numbers ticking down, you feel the project becoming more real, more inevitable. This scoreboard turns an abstract long-term goal into a concrete daily game. Are you winning or losing today? That's the only question the scoreboard answers, and that's the only question you need to care about. 4.4. Discipline 4. Create a cadence of accountability. The final discipline is what holds the whole system together. You need a regular, recurring rhythm of accountability. This means you need to have a short review session, at least once a week, where you look at your scoreboard and hold yourself accountable for your performance. This is your weekly meeting with the CEO of You Inc., and you need to be a tough boss. During this review, you ask two simple questions. Did I hit my lead measure goal this week? What can I do next week to improve my performance? This is not a time for self-flagellation. It's a time for honest assessment and strategic planning. You look at the scoreboard. You see the results. If you won, you hit your goal, you figure out what worked and how to replicate it. If you lost, you missed your goal, you figure out what went wrong and what you need to adjust for the coming week. Maybe you were too ambitious. Maybe you let the whirlwind get the best of you. Maybe your ritual wasn't strong enough. It doesn't matter. You don't make excuses. You diagnose the problem. You come up with a plan to fix it, and you commit to that plan for the next week. This weekly rhythm forces you to constantly engage with your goal. It prevents that slow drift into apathy where you just forget about your ambitions for a few weeks. It keeps the wildly important goal front and center. It's the process of looking at the scoreboard, learning from your successes and failures, and making new commitments for the immediate future that drives real, sustainable progress. Without this cadence of accountability, your focus will inevitably fizzle out. It's the engine that keeps the whole system running. So set a time every Friday afternoon or Sunday evening. Look your scoreboard in the face, be honest with yourself, and plan your next attack. 5. You're not distracted, you're an addict. Deal with it. Let's be honest for a second. Your problem isn't that your phone is distracting. Your problem is that you're addicted to it. You're a digital junkie. The constant stream of notifications, likes, and shiny new things isn't just a nuisance. It's a drug, and it has rewired your brain to be incapable of sustained thought. This isn't your fault, not entirely. These apps and platforms were designed by people much smarter than you with the explicit goal of capturing and selling your attention. They've succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. They've turned you into a lab rat who can't stop pressing the button for another pellet of validation. So the first step is to stop using cute words like distracted and busy. Call it what it is, an addiction. And you beat an addiction not by managing it, but by starving it. I remember a time I tried a digital detox for a week. I deleted all the social media apps from my phone, turned off email notifications, the works. The first 48 hours were pure, unadulterated hell. I felt like I was crawling out of my own skin. I'd pick up my phone every 2 minutes for no reason, my thumb twitching, searching for the icon that wasn't there. I felt a constant, low-grade anxiety, a gnawing fear that I was missing something monumentally important. Of course, I was missing absolutely nothing. What I was experiencing was withdrawal. It was a terrifying wake-up call. These tools weren't serving me, I was serving them. My brain had been hijacked. That's when I realized this isn't a battle of willpower. It's a battle of environment. You don't beat a drug dealer by trying to have just a little bit. You move to a different neighborhood. The existential principle here is dead simple. Your life is the sum total of what you pay attention to. If you spend your days flitting from one digital triviality to another, from a political outrage on Twitter, to a friend's baby picture on Instagram, to a pointless email chain, then your life is, by definition, trivial. You are living a shallow life because your attention is perpetually submerged in the shallows. A deep life, a meaningful life, is the inevitable consequence of directing your attention toward deep and meaningful things. It's not about some grand philosophical quest. It's about the mundane, moment-to-moment choice of where you point your focus. If you want to change your life, you have to change what you pay attention to. And to do that, you have to wage war on the forces that are trying to steal it from you. 5.1. Train your brain. Embrace boredom, you big baby. The single biggest mistake people make is thinking they can live a life of constant, frenetic distraction and then just flip a switch and enter deep work mode. It doesn't work. Your brain doesn't have an on-off switch for focus. It has a muscle, and your focus muscle has atrophied to the point of being useless. To rebuild it, you have to train it, and the gym for this training is boredom. You must relearn how to be bored. You have to be able to stand in a line, wait for a friend, or sit in a waiting room without immediately reaching for your phone like a drowning man grasping for a life raft. Here's the rule. Don't take breaks from distraction. Instead, Take breaks from focus. This is a complete inversion of how most people operate. Their default state is distraction, phone out, tabs open, notifications on. They try to carve out little islands of focus in an ocean of chaos. You need to flip that. Your default state should be focus. The internet, your phone, social media, these are the breaks. You schedule them. You say, I will check my email and look at stupid websites for 30 minutes at noon and again for 30 minutes at 5 p.m. The rest of the time, the internet is off limits. This is hard. At first, your brain will feel like a caged animal. It will scream for a hit of novelty. Let it scream. This is the feeling of your focus muscle being rebuilt. Every moment you resist the urge to check your phone is a rep for your concentration. Once you get comfortable with boredom, you can move to the next level, productive meditation. This is the practice of using your unoccupied time while walking, driving, showering, doing chores to focus on a single, well-defined professional problem. It's not daydreaming. It's a structured thinking process. You pick a problem before you start, e.g., what is the core argument for Chapter 2 of my report? Or what are the 3 biggest technical hurdles for this new feature? Then you focus your attention on that problem. When your mind wanders, and it will, a lot, you gently but firmly bring it back to the problem at hand. It's meditation, but instead of focusing on your breath, you're focusing on a problem. This practice is a game changer. It trains your mind to concentrate outside of your formal deep work blocks and can lead to major breakthroughs. You are turning otherwise wasted time into some of your most valuable thinking sessions. 5.2. Kill your darlings. The craftsman's purge of digital junk. Now for the big one. Social media and all the other shiny infotainment tools that are eating your brain. You need to stop being a digital maximalist who adopts any tool that might offer some vague, hypothetical benefit. It's time to become a digital minimalist, a craftsman who is ruthlessly selective about their tools. The question is not, does this tool offer any benefit? The question is this tool the best possible way to support the things I value most? Most people operate on the any benefit approach. They'll say, I have to be on Facebook to keep up with my family, or I need Twitter to stay on top of news in my industry. These are flimsy excuses. They are identifying one small benefit while completely ignoring the massive cost, the fractured attention, the constant context switching, the endless time sink. It's like a carpenter saying, I have to keep this broken, rusty saw because one time, 5 years ago, it helped me cut a weird angle on a piece of scrap wood. It's insane. A master craftsman doesn't have 1,000 mediocre tools. They have a few high-quality tools that they have mastered and that are essential to their craft. Anything else is just clutter. You need to adopt the craftsman approach to tool selection. Here's how it works. First, identify the most important high-level goals in your professional and personal life. What are the things that truly matter? Producing valuable work, maintaining deep relationships with a small number of people, cultivating a specific skill. Write them down. Now, for every single digital tool you use, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, news aggregators, all of it, you must ask a very hard question. Does the use of this tool have a substantially positive impact on my ability to achieve these goals? And is that impact greater than the negative impact of the tool? Be brutally honest. Does scrolling through an endless feed of curated perfection and political outrage really help you build deep relationships? Does getting into arguments with strangers on Twitter really make you a better programmer? In 99% of cases, the answer is a resounding no. The benefits are trivial, and the costs are catastrophic. So here's the call to action, the thing you're probably terrified to do. Pick a period, say 30 days, and quit all the optional digital tools in your life. Cold turkey. Delete the apps from your phone. Don't tell anyone you're doing it. Just stop. At the end of the 30 days, ask yourself 2 questions for each service you quit. 1, would the last 30 days have been notably better if I had been able to use this service? 2, did people care that I wasn't using it? The answer to both will almost certainly be no. For the very few tools where you feel a genuine, significant loss, you can consider reintroducing them, but with strict rules about how and when you use them. For the rest, let them go. Kill them. They were never your friends. They were just beautifully designed slot machines for your attention. Choose your tools like a craftsman. Choose to be the master, not the slave. 6. The shallow work is trying to kill you. Fight back. So you've built your little deep work ritual. You've scheduled your time. You've even managed to put your phone in a drawer for a whole hour without having a seizure. Good for you. You've won a battle, but you are still losing the war. Why? Because deep work isn't just about what you do during your focused blocks. It's also about what you don't do the rest of the day. The shallow work, the emails, the meetings, the quick questions on Slack isn't just a minor annoyance. It's a parasite that will suck up every available minute of your day if you let it. It's the kudzu of the modern workplace, and it will strangle your deep work ambitions before they even have a chance to grow. I used to have this problem all the time. I'd finish a glorious 2-hour deep work session in the morning, feeling like a goddamn genius. I'd have created something from nothing. Then I'd open my inbox, 50 new emails, a dozen meeting invites, a handful of urgent requests that were really just someone else's poor planning. By noon, that focused, creative brain I had in the morning was scrambled eggs. My entire day would be consumed by reacting to this onslaught of shallow crap. I was busy, sure, I was working. But I was just a highly paid administrative assistant for other people's agendas. I wasn't creating, I was just clearing. The hard truth is that your job and your life will expand to fill the time you give it with the shallowest possible work. It's the path of least resistance. It feels productive to clear an inbox, but it's a sugar high. You're not moving the needle, you're just spinning the hamster wheel faster. To truly make space for depth, you have to go on the offensive. You have to actively and ruthlessly drain the shallows. This isn't about being a jerk or being uncollaborative. It's about acknowledging a simple fact. Your time and attention are finite, and if you don't guard them like a starving dog guards a steak, the world will steal them from you and leave you with nothing. Choose your problem, the discomfort of setting boundaries or the misery of a life spent in the shallows. 6.1. Plan your day in advance, or your day will plan you. Here's a revolutionary idea. Decide what you're going to do with your time before the day begins. I know, it sounds insane. But most people start their day with a vague to-do list, which is really just a list of anxieties, and then they let their inbox dictate their schedule. This is a recipe for a shallow, reactive life. You need to stop being a victim of your own day. You need to become its architect. The technique is called time blocking. You take your whole workday and you assign a job to every single minute of it. You create a template for your day with pre-scheduled blocks for deep work, shallow work, email, lunch, everything. This isn't about creating a rigid, unbreakable prison schedule. Life happens. The plan will break. The point is not to stick to the plan perfectly. The point is to have a plan in the first place. When an unexpected meeting pops up or a task takes longer than you thought, you don't just throw your hands up and descend into chaos. You take a minute, you look at your schedule, and you re-block the rest of your day. You make a new plan. It's the habit of intentionality that matters. The process of thinking through your day forces you to ask hard questions. How much time will this really take? Do I actually have time for this? Is this the best use of this block of time? Without a plan, your default is to drift toward the easiest, most convenient thing, which is almost always shallow work. A time-blocked schedule acts as a bulwark against this drift. It makes your time tangible. You see, visually, that you only have, say, 90 minutes for email today, so you better be efficient. You see that your 2-hour deep work block is coming up, so you start mentally preparing for it. It turns your day from a chaotic free-for-all into a series of deliberate choices. It puts you back in the driver's seat. Seriously, are you in charge of your day, or is your inbox 6.2? Ask the brutal question, how shallow is this work? You need to develop an allergy to shallow work. You need to be able to look at a task and immediately assess its value or lack thereof. Here's a simple, soul-crushing question to ask for any task on your plate. How many months would it take to train a smart, recent college graduate with no specialized training in your field to complete this task? Be honest. That weekly report you generate by copying and pasting numbers into a template. A week of training, maybe. Answering customer service emails. A month, tops. Scheduling meetings. An afternoon. The shorter the time, the shallower the work. This is not a pleasant exercise. When you start applying this metric to your own job, you might come to the horrifying realization that 80% of what you do is incredibly shallow. This is your shallow work ratio, and it's a direct measure of your professional vulnerability. The higher that ratio, the more replaceable you are. This isn't meant to make you feel bad. It's meant to be a wake-up call. You need to see the enemy clearly to fight it. Once you've identified your shallow tasks, your goal is to reduce the amount of time you spend on them. Can you batch them all into one short, focused block of time? Can you delegate them? Can you automate them? Can you simply stop doing them and see if anyone notices? You'd be surprised how often the answer is no. You also need to have a conversation with your boss. But don't go in there whining about being busy. Go in with data. Show them your shallow work ratio. Say, I'm spending X% of my time on these low-value tasks. If you could help me reduce that, I could redirect that time to this wildly important deep work project, which will produce Y result. You're reframing the conversation from, I'm overwhelmed, to let's make a strategic investment in creating more value. 6.3. The art of being hard to reach, aka taming the email beast. Email is the single greatest enemy of deep work. It's a beautifully designed system for letting other people's priorities colonize your day. If you don't control it, it will control you. The goal is not to get to inbox zero. The goal is to spend as little time in your inbox as possible. You do this by becoming, professionally and politely, a pain in the ass to get a hold of. First, make the sender do more work. A public email address is an open invitation for anyone with a half-baked thought to steal a piece of your attention. You need to put a filter in front of it. On your website or in your email signature, instead of just listing your address, you can create a sender filter. This could be a set of instructions like, if you're interested in X, please read this FAQ first. If you still have a question, please send a detailed email with the subject line, Project Inquiry, and include A, B, and C. This forces the sender to invest more effort and thought. It filters out 90% of the low-value junk. Second, write emails that end conversations. Stop writing open-ended, back-and-forth emails. Adopt a process-centric approach. When you reply, don't just answer the question. Propose a process that will bring the issue to a final conclusion. Instead of saying, sure, let's meet sometime next week, say, great, I'm available Tuesday at 2 p.m. or Thursday at 10 a.m. I've sent a calendar invite for the Tuesday slot. If that doesn't work, please decline it and book a time that works for you using this scheduling link. Otherwise, I will consider the meeting confirmed. You've identified the goal, schedule a meeting, laid out the entire process, and put the ball in their court to finalize it. You have closed the loop in one email instead of 5. Finally, and this is the ultimate power move, don't respond to every email. This sounds heretical, but it's crucial. You are not obligated to reply to an email that is ambiguous, makes no sense, or is not a good fit for you. A non-response is a response. It signals that the sender's query was not well formed enough to warrant your attention. This forces people who want something from you to be more clear and considerate in their requests. It teaches the world how you expect to be treated. Your silence is a tool. It's not about being rude. It's about setting a standard. The standard is, if you want a piece of my time, you better come correct. Because my time is for creating value, not for deciphering your lazy, half-formed thoughts. 7. This isn't about productivity, you moron. It's about meaning. You think all this talk about deep work is just another productivity hack. You think this is about getting more done so you can get a promotion and buy a slightly bigger TV. How adorable. You've completely missed the point. This isn't about optimizing your workflow. It's about saving your soul. The relentless pursuit of the shallow, the constant connectivity, the endless feed, the overflowing inbox, isn't just making you less productive. It's making you miserable. It's creating a background hum of anxiety and meaninglessness that you try to drown out with more scrolling, more notifications, more noise. A life lived in the shallows is not a life. It's a long, frantic, and ultimately empty performance for an audience that doesn't care. I remember after my first book came out, I was doing a lot of media stuff, interviews, podcasts, TV appearances. It was all very successful. I was busy. I was important. My calendar was a nightmare, and I was miserable. I was spending all my time talking about the work, not doing the work. My days were a blur of shallow interactions, of sound bites and pleasantries. I felt like a talking head, a brand, not a writer. One day, I just canceled everything for a week. I went back to my apartment, turned off my phone, and just sat down to write. It was hard. It was clumsy. But after a few hours of wrestling with a single stubborn idea, I felt more alive and more myself than I had in months. The world was screaming for my attention, but for the first time in a long time, I was giving it to something that mattered to me. The world could wait. The existential punchline is this: your brain is not a hard drive designed for passive storage and retrieval of information. It's a meaning-making machine, and it makes meaning through intense engagement with the world, not through passive consumption of it. A life devoid of deep engagement is neurologically, psychologically, and philosophically impoverished. The constant stream of information overload is basically starving your brain of what it needs most: a challenge. You are biologically wired to feel good when you are mastering a skill, solving a hard problem, or creating something of value. By choosing a life of distraction, you are deliberately denying yourself the very thing that makes a human life feel worthwhile. Seriously, what do you think you're going to remember on your deathbed? The witty comment you left on a news article, or the project you poured your entire being into for 6 months 7.1. Your brain on deep work. Building a mind, not just a career. Let's talk about your brain for a second, because it's a mess. A mind left to its own devices, without a focus, will devolve into chaos. It will fixate on worries, ruminate on insults, and generate anxiety out of thin air. This is its natural state. Most people solve this problem by constantly feeding it external stimuli: a new video, a new outrage, a new notification. This doesn't fix the chaos. It just papers over it with a different kind of chaos. It's like trying to clean a messy room by throwing a glitter bomb into it. Deep work is the alternative. When you commit your full attention to a single hard task, you are imposing order on your own consciousness. You are telling your brain, this is what we are focusing on now. All that other bullshit can wait. This act of sustained, directed attention is incredibly therapeutic. It organizes your mind. It gives it a clear purpose. The neuroscientists will tell you it's because you're cultivating an ordered pattern of neural firing. I'll tell you, it's because you're finally giving your brain the job it was designed for. It's the difference between letting your mind be a windswept parking lot full of trash and turning it into a well-organized workshop where you can actually build things. A deep life is a less anxious life because your attention is directed outward, toward creating value, not inward, toward your own neurotic bullshit. 7.2. The psychology of flow, the only drug you actually need. You know that feeling when you're so absorbed in what you're doing that time just seems to disappear. You forget you're hungry, you forget you're tired, you forget that you even have a phone. The psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called this flow, and it's the optimal state of human consciousness. It's the in-the-zone feeling that athletes and artists talk about. It's the most potent, sustainable source of happiness and satisfaction available to human beings. And guess what? It's a state that is almost exclusively accessed through deep work. You don't find flow by answering emails. You don't find it in a pointless meeting. You don't find it by scrolling through your social media feed. These are all shallow activities that provide, at best, a quick hit of fleeting pleasure. Flow happens when your skills are being stretched to their limits to meet a challenge that is just manageable. It's the programmer debugging a thorny piece of code. It's the musician nailing a difficult passage. It's the writer finding the perfect sentence. The joy of a deep life is that it is packed with these moments of flow. You are constantly pushing yourself, constantly learning, constantly creating. The shallow life, in contrast, is almost completely devoid of flow. It's a life of chronic understimulation and mild anxiety. It's boring. And we try to cure that boredom with more and more distraction, which just makes the problem worse. If you want to feel genuinely good about your life and your work, stop chasing the cheap highs of likes and notifications. Start chasing flow. Structure your days to create the long, uninterrupted blocks of time necessary for it to emerge. It's hard to get into, but once you're there, it's the best feeling in the world. It's the feeling of being used up for a purpose you chose yourself. 7.3. The philosophy of craftsmanship. Stop consuming, start creating. In a godless, meaningless universe, there are very few reliable sources of meaning. You can try to find it in religion, in relationships, in service to others. All fine options. But there is another, more direct path, a path that has been celebrated by philosophers from Aristotle to the existentialists, the path of craftsmanship. To take a raw material, be it wood or words or lines of code or a business problem, and to apply your focused skill to transform it into something of value is a deeply meaningful act. It's an act of creation in a world that tends toward entropy and decay. It's a way of imposing your will on a small corner of the universe and making it better, more ordered, and more useful. A life dedicated to deep work is a life of craftsmanship. You stop being merely a consumer of information, and you become a producer of value. You stop being a passive observer, and you become an active creator. This shift is profound. It changes your identity. You're no longer just a guy who works in marketing. You are a craftsman who builds brilliant marketing campaigns. You're not just a junior developer. You are a craftsman who writes elegant, efficient code. This identity gives you a source of pride and satisfaction that is immune to the whims of your boss or the state of the stock market. It's yours. You earned it through your focused effort. So, here's the final truth. Deep work isn't about becoming a productivity machine. It's about becoming an artisan. It's about taking the raw material of your own potential and, through the fire of intense focus, forging it into something of value, something you can be proud of. It's about building a life that feels solid and real, not one that feels like a flimsy collection of digital distractions. A deep life is a good life. It's that simple. So, what are you going to build? 8. The shutdown ritual. Your brain has an off switch. For God's sake, use it. Let me guess. Your workday doesn't really end. It just sort of fizzles out. You finish at 5 or 6 p.m., but you keep your work email on your phone. You check it a few more times during dinner. You think about that annoying project while you're trying to watch a movie. You have a brilliant idea in the shower at 11 p.m. and email it to yourself. Your brain is never fully off. It's in a perpetual state of semi-work, a mushy gray area of low-grade stress. This is not just a bad habit. It's professional and psychological suicide. You are systematically destroying your ability to recharge, and as a result, you are destroying your ability to do high-quality deep work when you actually need to. I used to be this guy. I was proud of it. I thought it meant I was dedicated. I'd fall asleep thinking about work and wake up thinking about work. My wife called it sleepworking. Then I noticed that my best ideas never came during these stolen after-hours moments. They came in the morning, after a night of genuine rest. And my deep work sessions were getting harder and harder to sustain. I was running on fumes. I realized my brain wasn't a tireless machine. It was a muscle. And by never letting it recover, I was overtraining it into a state of chronic fatigue. I was sacrificing tomorrow's peak performance for a tiny, useless hit of productivity. Tonight, it was idiotic. The existential gut punch is this. A life without clear boundaries is a life without rest, and a life without rest is a life of burnout. The idea that you can be always on is a lie sold to you by a work culture that wants to squeeze every last drop of value out of you, even if it leaves you a hollowed-out husk. True professionals, like true athletes, understand that rest is not the opposite of work. It is an essential part of work. The time you spend completely disconnected from your job is when your brain is consolidating information, making new connections, and replenishing the finite mental energy required for deep focus. By refusing to shut down, you are actively sabotaging your own success. You have to choose the short-term anxiety of disconnecting or the long-term reality of a fried nervous system and mediocre output. 8.1. The shutdown complete. A ritual to end your day. To combat this chronic work creep, you need a simple, powerful ritual. It's called the shutdown complete ritual. It's a series of steps you perform at the end of every single workday to signal to your brain that the day is officially over. It's a firm, clear boundary. The goal is to get every single work-related thought out of your head and onto paper or a trusted digital system so that you can be truly present for the rest of your evening. Here's how it works. About 15 to 30 minutes before your planned end time, you stop what you're doing. You take out a piece of paper or open a task list. You go through every single open loop in your mind. Every email you need to reply to, every task you need to complete, every half-formed idea. You write it down. If a task is not yet complete, you make a quick plan for when and how you will complete it. For example, finish the first draft of the report tomorrow during my 9 a.m. deep work block. You're not finishing the work, you're just making a clear plan for it. You keep going until your mind is empty. Once you have reviewed every task, every email, every calendar entry, and you are confident that there are no open loops left floating in your brain, you say a specific phrase out loud. Something like, "Shutdown complete." This sounds cheesy as hell, but it works. It's a verbal trigger that tells your subconscious mind, we are done. You are released from duty. You do not need to think about work again until tomorrow morning. After you say this phrase, you are done. No more checking email. No more one last thing. If a work thought pops into your head in the evening, you don't engage with it. You just say to yourself, I've already thought about that and made a plan. I'll deal with it tomorrow, and you let it go. 8.2. Why downtime isn't a luxury, it's a biological necessity. You probably think of your downtime, your evenings, your weekend as a time for leisure. You fill it with more stimulating, distracting junk. You binge watch TV shows. You scroll endlessly through social media. You consume. This is a huge mistake. Your brain doesn't just need a break from work. It needs a break from directed attention altogether. It needs time to just be. This is not laziness. This is a critical part of the cognitive cycle. There are three main reasons why this kind of downtime is essential for deep work. First, it's when you have your best ideas. The aha moment, the flash of insight, almost never happens when you are staring intently at the problem. It happens when you are relaxed, when your mind is wandering, in the shower, on a walk, while doing the dishes. This is your brain's diffuse mode of thinking, and it's where novel connections are made. By being always on, you are robbing yourself of these crucial insights. Second, downtime replenishes the energy required for deep work. The ability to direct your attention is a finite resource. It's like a battery. Every time you make a decision, resist a distraction, or focus your mind, you use up a little bit of that battery. Your evening downtime is when that battery recharges. If you spend your evening checking emails and thinking about work, you are starting the next day with a half-charged battery. It's like trying to run a marathon after sleeping for 2 hours. You're setting yourself up for failure. Third, the work you do in the evening is usually not very good anyway. The law of diminishing returns is brutal. The decisions you make and the work you produce when you are tired and your willpower is depleted are of a much lower quality than the work you do when you are fresh. You'll probably spend more time tomorrow morning fixing the sloppy work you did last night than if you had just stopped and gone for a walk. So you're not actually getting ahead. You're just creating more work for your future, better rested self. 8.3. The power of intentional leisure. Be as serious about your play as your work. So what do you do with this glorious work-free downtime? You don't just collapse onto the couch and stare at a screen. That's passive leisure, and it's not very restorative. You need active, high-quality leisure. You need to be as intentional about your evenings and weekends as you are about your workday. This means replacing low-quality, screen-based distractions with activities that are genuinely fulfilling and restorative. Read a challenging book. Learn a new skill, like playing an instrument or woodworking. Engage in a craft. Have a real, deep conversation with a friend, with your phones turned off. Spend time in nature. Exercise. These are activities that require some effort and skill, but they are also deeply rewarding. They fill you up instead of draining you. They are the antidote to the shallow, distracting culture we live in. They are, in a sense, a form of deep work for your personal life. The ultimate goal is to build a life where the boundary between work and non-work is clear and sacred. You work with incredible intensity during your designated hours, and you rest with equal intensity during your downtime. You are either fully on or fully off. There is no in-between. This is not about work-life balance, which is a meaningless concept. It's about work-life separation. It's about honoring the fact that you are a human being, not a machine. You need time to work and you need time to not work. To be excellent at one, you must be committed to the other. So when your workday is over, shut it down and don't look back until tomorrow. 9. Conclusion. Don't be a hero, be a craftsman. So, there you have it, the whole damn philosophy. The brutal truth is that our world is conspiring to turn you into a frantic, shallow, and ultimately replaceable drone. The path of least resistance, the path that almost everyone is on, leads directly to a life of professional mediocrity and personal anxiety. Deep work is the antidote. It's the skill that allows you to reclaim your attention, produce work that matters, and build a life of focus and meaning. But let's be clear, this isn't easy. It's a rebellion against the entire culture. It requires effort, planning, and a willingness to be different. It requires you to be the weirdo who doesn't answer emails immediately, the freak who can sit alone with their thoughts, the outcast who intentionally disconnects from the digital hive mind. I failed at this 100 times before I got it right. I'd have a great week of deep work, then fall off the wagon for a month. I'd get seduced by a new shiny app or a new urgent project. I'd convince myself that I was the exception, that I could handle the distractions. Every single time, I was wrong. The whirlwind would suck me back in, and I'd find myself back where I started, busy, stressed, and producing nothing of substance. My biggest failure was thinking I could just try harder. It was an ego trap. I thought my willpower was stronger than the billions of dollars being spent to dismantle it. The breakthrough came when I finally accepted my own weakness. I accepted that my brain was a flawed instrument, easily hijacked. I stopped trying to be a hero and started trying to be a craftsman. A hero relies on strength. A craftsman relies on systems. The core principle that ties this all together is that a deep life is a good life. This isn't just a career strategy. It's a philosophy for living. The same principles that allow you to produce world-class work are the same principles that allow you to be a present father, a loving partner, and an engaged friend. By training your ability to focus, by choosing where you place your attention, you are taking control of your own experience of reality. You are deciding what your life is about. Is it about a scattered collection of other people's priorities, or is it about the deliberate creation of a life that you value? Stop waiting for the world to give you permission to focus. It never will. You have to take it. Choose your struggles. Choose to do the hard, focused work that others are unwilling or unable to do. In a world of distraction, focus is a superpower, and it's a superpower that is available to anyone who is willing to do the work. 9.1. The Grand Experiment, the Author's Journey. As promised at the beginning of this journey, it's only fair to report back on my own attempts to put these principles into practice while writing this very book. My goal was simple: to go deeper than I ever had before. To live and breathe these ideas, not just write about them. I adopted a strict rhythmic philosophy. My alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. every weekday. By 6 a.m., I was at my writing desk with a cup of coffee, and I would work for 3 solid, uninterrupted hours. No internet, no phone. Just me and the words. This was my sacred time. Then, at the end of each day, I performed a shutdown ritual, clearing my head and making a plan for the next morning. The results were, frankly, astonishing. I wrote the entire first draft of this book in a matter of months, a pace that was unheard of for me. But the productivity was a side effect. The real change was internal. Those morning sessions were the calmest, most fulfilling part of my day. I felt a sense of purpose and control that I had been missing. And by ruthlessly protecting my evenings and weekends, by filling them with reading and family and long walks, I found that my mind was sharper and my ideas were better when I returned to work. I became a digital minimalist, cutting out almost all social media. And you know what? No one cared. My life got better, quieter, and more focused. I proved to myself, once and for all, that the deep work hypothesis is true. The more I embraced depth, the more I thrived, both professionally and personally. This book is the product of the philosophy it describes. It's my proof, but my experiment doesn't have to be yours. Your life is different. Your challenges are different. The point is not to copy my exact routine. The point is to take these principles and forge them into a system that works for you. You must become a scientist of your own work habits. Experiment. Track your lead measures. See what moves the needle. Be ruthless in cutting out what doesn't serve your deepest goals. It's a continuous process of refinement, of calibration, of building a life that is increasingly aligned with what you value most. 9.2. 3 concrete steps to start your rebellion. Enough talk. If you're ready to stop being a pawn in someone else's game, here are 3 things you can do, starting tomorrow, to begin your own deep work rebellion. First, schedule your next day, minute by minute. Before you go to bed tonight, take out a piece of paper and block out your entire workday for tomorrow. Don't be vague, be specific. From 9 to 9:30, process email. From 9:30 to 11:30, deep work on Project X. From 11:30 to 12, shallow work batch, and so on. Your plan will probably fail. That's not the point. The point is to start the day with intention, not with reaction. This one habit will change everything. Second, identify your shallow work ratio for one day. For one full workday, keep a log of everything you do. At the end of the day, go through the log and, for each task, ask the brutal question: how long would it take to train a smart college grad to do this? Add up the minutes you spent on tasks that could be learned in a few months or less. Divide it by your total work time. That's your shallow work ratio. Look that number in the face. Let it scare you. This number is your enemy. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to shrink it. Third, perform a shutdown ritual. At the end of your workday tomorrow, before you leave your desk, take 15 minutes. Write down every open loop. Make a plan for the next day. Then say the words "shutdown complete" out loud. And then be done. Truly done. No email checks. No one last thing. Go live your life. See how it feels to have a brain that is fully present in your own evening. This is your starting point. This is how the revolution begins. Not with a grand sweeping gesture, but with a series of small, deliberate, and rebellious acts. You are building a new way of living, one focused block at a time. It won't be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. The deep life is waiting for you. Go get it. 10. Author's main theses. All right, let's cut the crap and boil this all down. If you're the type who skips to the end of the book to get the answers, first of all, you're part of the problem. But second, here are the core, non-negotiable truths that this whole thing is built on. These are the load-bearing walls of the philosophy. If you get nothing else, get this. Thesis 1. Deep work is your only hope in a shallow world. The single most valuable skill in the 21st century is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. This is deep work. At the exact same time this skill is becoming the cornerstone of value creation in our economy, it's becoming massively, tragically rare. Most people have systematically trained their brains to be incapable of it. They are digital junkies, flitting from one notification to the next, their attention shattered into a million useless pieces. This creates a colossal opportunity. The few who intentionally cultivate the ability to go deep, to shut out the world and create things of value, will thrive. They will be the new elite. Everyone else will be left behind, fighting for scraps in the gig economy, answering emails for a living, and wondering why they feel so busy but so broke and insignificant. Shallow work, the stuff you do while distracted, the logistical fluff, is a ticket to irrelevance. It's easy, it's common, and it's worthless. Deep work is hard, rare, and valuable. The choice is yours. Thesis 2. The middle class is dead. You're either a master or you're screwed. The economy is splitting in two. The comfortable middle is vanishing. Technology isn't just creating new jobs, it's destroying old ones and radically changing the rules. In this new game, there are 3 types of winners. Those who can work creatively with intelligent machines, the high-skilled. Those who are the absolute best in their field in a global marketplace, the superstars. And those who have the money to invest in all this crap, the owners. For those of us who weren't born rich, our only path is to join one of the first 2 groups. And what do they both have in common? They both run on deep work. To master complex technology and to produce at an elite, world-class level, you need to be able to learn hard things quickly and apply that knowledge to create valuable output. Both of these abilities are a direct function of your ability to focus intensely. Average is no longer a safe place to be. It's a synonym for replaceable. You must become so good they can't ignore you, and deep work is the only way to get there. Thesis 3. Your brain is a dumb, flabby muscle. Train it. The ability to concentrate is not a gift you're born with. It's a skill you build through practice. Right now, your focus muscle has the consistency of overcooked pasta because you've spent years training it to do nothing but seek distraction. You can't just decide to be focused, any more than you can decide to run a marathon without training. You have to systematically rebuild that muscle. This means you must embrace boredom. You must learn to exist without a constant stream of input. You must schedule your distractions instead of letting them schedule you. You must create rituals and structures, like the monastic, bimodal, or rhythmic philosophies that force you into focus, because your willpower is a fickle, unreliable resource. You have to treat your brain like the dumb, beautiful, and highly trainable piece of meat that it is. Thesis 4. Willpower is for suckers. Systems are for winners. Stop trying to try harder. It's an ego trap. You are not a hero with superhuman willpower. You are a flawed, distractible monkey brain, and you are up against a multi-trillion-dollar industry designed to hack your attention. You will not win this fight on the open field of willpower. You will lose. The only way to win is to change the battlefield. You need to build a fortress of systems and habits that protect your focus. This is where the 4 disciplines of execution come in. Have a wildly important goal, act on the lead measures, your hours of deep work, keep a compelling scoreboard, and maintain a cadence of accountability. This is how you execute. You also need to become a ruthless craftsman with your tools, ditching every app and service that doesn't provide a massive, undeniable benefit to your core goals. Stop being a digital maximalist who collects shiny objects and start being a minimalist who uses only the best tools for the job. Thesis 5. Shallow work is the kudzu of your career. Kill it with fire. The endless stream of emails, meetings, Slack messages, and other urgent but unimportant tasks is not just a part of the job. It is the primary obstacle to doing your job. This shallow work will expand to fill every available second if you let it. It's the path of least resistance, and it feels productive, but it's a lie. You're not creating value. You're just a human router. You must go on the offensive. You must schedule every minute of your day, time blocking, to reclaim your time. You must quantify how much of your job is shallow and have a brutal, honest conversation with yourself and your boss about reducing it. And you must tame the email beast by making yourself harder to reach, writing emails that end conversations, and being willing to not respond to every low-value request. Your job is not to be responsive. Your job is to produce results. Thesis 6. Rest isn't a reward. It's a prerequisite. The always-on hustle culture is a scam. It leads not to success, but to burnout, anxiety, and mediocre work. A brain that never disconnects is a brain that never fully recharges. You must have a hard boundary at the end of your workday. The shutdown complete ritual is your tool for this. It's a non-negotiable process to get all work-related thoughts out of your head so you can be fully present in your own life. Downtime is not laziness. It is a biological necessity. It's when your subconscious mind makes novel connections, when your creativity flourishes, and when you replenish the finite stores of mental energy required for the next day's deep work. And don't waste that downtime on more shallow, digital junk. Engage in high-quality, restorative leisure. Be as intentional about your rest as you are about your work. Peak performance requires peak recovery. Thesis 7. The point of all this isn't to get more done. It's to build a life that doesn't suck. This is the big one. If you think this is just another productivity system, you've missed everything. The ultimate argument for a life of depth is not economic, but spiritual and philosophical. A life lived in the shallows is a life of chronic anxiety, distraction, and meaninglessness. You are what you pay attention to. If you pay attention to trivialities, your life will be trivial. Deep work is a path to flow, the psychological state of being so absorbed in a challenging task that you lose track of time and self. This is the most potent source of satisfaction and happiness available to us. A life structured around deep work is a life rich with flow. It is also a life of craftsmanship. By taking raw material and transforming it into something of value through focused effort, you are engaging in one of the most fundamentally meaningful acts a human can perform. You are creating order in a chaotic universe. A deep life is a good life. It's a life of substance, purpose, and pride. That's it. I'm done. Thank you.